So Andy, take a quick minute and tell us about what's happened in the last week since we launched Zend Server 6 and Zend Studio 10.
So we've had a very exciting past week, and last week we announced both the availability of Zend Server 6 and the availability of Zend Studio 10. It's really, our goal is really to make it easy for companies to build cloud-connected mobile apps, and also help them automate their deployment process and really help them adopt DevOps methodology. So in Zend Server 6, we added a lot of capabilities around deploying applications, managing those applications, scaling them out into the cloud. Huge amount of capabilities. People can come to our website, read more about it. We also have a really cool video that kind of tells you the story of Zend Server 6. And then in addition, we took that cloud application platform, that's Zend Server 6, and we extended it all the way to mobile. And that's where really Zend Studio 10 comes in, where we've added the capabilities to basically, in a drag and drop basis, build client-side apps. We also, in Zend Server, added a Zend Server Gateway, which is a way to easily create APIs and cloud services on the server side. That is also tooled by Zend Studio. And then we make it very easy for companies to actually build server and client side together, debug them, and then deploy them. So very, very exciting. We've been getting a lot of interest, and I definitely think it takes our whole value to companies who are building business critical PHP apps to the next level.
So this is my first full week at corporate headquarters. Is there always this much traffic? It's amazed me that a constant stream of business meetings and analyst calls, and I literally had to bribe your assistant to get 10 minutes in your office.
So I'd say we're always very busy. We're agile. We're trying to run fast. The PHP market is very big. I'd say probably the last week has been a tiny bit busier because we had 2 big product releases, but it's definitely been busy, and busy is good. More and more companies are choosing PHP and Zend, and the whole shift towards mobile and cloud is just accelerating that.
So I was talking to some of the sales guys. Interesting thing, being an East Coast guy, I get up early, and some of the sales team work for different time zones, so they're here in the office at different times during the day, and they were talking to me about how the release of Zend Studio 10 has been a real home run. You want to talk about what a banner week it's been for Zend Studio adoption?
Yeah, I mean, Zend Studio's had a huge adoption in the past week. I think it's for a few reasons. First of all, the mobile capabilities definitely have resonated with our audience. We just did a survey recently, and we saw that 88% of our users were planning to build mobile apps in the upcoming year. And we all know that the tools right now in that space aren't good enough. So Zend Studio 10 really delivers a great solution. I think mobile has helped. The other thing we did is we actually did a promotion with the release. Usually it's not a best practice to do a promotion with a release because people say, well, you can maximize revenue. But we really wanted to enable the PHP developer to get on the mobile bandwagon. And so what we've been really trying to do is trying to make it as easy as possible for PHP developers to get started in building out these cloud-connected mobile apps. And that's just, it really skyrocketed the distribution of Zend Studio.
It's another place where it seems like there's a lot of interest to me that there's sort of this division in the mobile world where a bunch of folks want to develop the client side of the app using HTML5 technology, which Zend Studio is already tooled to do, but there's still a lot of more or less native Android client in Java and iPhone and iPad native development in Objective-C, but PHP is sort of, because its DNA is web-based, makes it sort of perfect for either one of those models.
Right. And in fact, I think that kind of hits the nail on the head. The biggest challenge in building mobile apps is actually not the client side. The biggest challenge is how do you build that server-side architecture that exposes the web services that the client side has to consume. And so typically you see the traditional app will basically have the UI logic on the server side and push HTML over the wire. You need to build a new architecture that is basically REST JSON based, and it's all web service enabled. So we're really focused at helping companies build that server side, build a REST JSON based architecture, do it in an agile way, do it in a way that can scale into the cloud. So you'll see a lot of our focus is actually on how do you enable mobile through a good server side architecture. And then on the client side, it really doesn't matter what technology you're using. We've embraced HTML5 and JavaScript as a company with Zend Studio to kind of give people that out-of-the-box experience with technologies they're familiar with. We adopted Apache Cordova, which is like PhoneGap, that actually helps you get to native device capabilities from JavaScript. So you can actually get to camera, you can get to accelerometer, so you get most of the benefits of actually writing native, but with web technologies. We think that's going to become an increasing trend. But ultimately, if you build the right server-side architecture, you could still use Objective-C in Java, Android, and be very, very successful.
Well, and this is one of the things that I've observed. I've been pretty entrenched in the mobile development scene for the last couple of years, and we've reached an inflection point where mobile developers are starting to mature their model a little bit. And it used to be just you needed a mobile experience, but we're starting to realize in mobile development what we've recently realized in web development. That is that it's the context specific user interactions that make great apps, and to some extent, because in the mobile space it's so easy to acquire apps and so many are free, that we're not really competing to get an end user to use the app. We're competing to get them to keep using the app, and we're competing for the number of minutes that they spend using that app. And the way to do that is to provide very context sensitive experience, and that means constant interaction with the server to fetch new user specific data, etc.
Yeah, so I think absolutely. I think it's all around leveraging touch and leveraging the new interaction paradigm. In doing so, you have to have very current, contextual, personalized information and experiences, and you have to make it very, very interactive. So that requires a pretty big change in how people think about it. You can't just take a data entry screen and say, oh, it's going to look exactly the same on mobile, because you're not typing the whole time in mobile. You're more touch based, so you have to be a lot more contextual in how you get people to actually interact with you. And that's really what we're trying to focus on. And from a user experience point of view, it is exactly that iterative, agile development that you need in order to deliver these great user experiences. Because except for Apple, most of us don't nail user experience on the first time. And so organizations have to interact with their users, learn what works, learn what doesn't work, and very quickly modify and iterate.
So I have two quick questions before I'm completely overstep my boundaries for time. One is, I've spent lots of time in the last couple of days talking about ZenCon, and one of the things that's exciting to me, as somebody who's been to a bunch of ZenCons, spoken at several, I think that Zend Server 6 in particular, and the mobile and cloud enablement in Zend Studio, is going to make this year's ZenCon really interesting, both from a enterprise, how to do complex business problem solving in PHP, as well as to solve a lot of the day-to-day problems. We'll be able to invest in talks and other content to help folks figure out, building the app is one thing, but there are now some real enterprise best-in-class mechanisms for keeping apps running well in production with as little friction as possible. Do you have thoughts about how we're going to up-level ZenCon this year?
Well, I think it started last year, and we've kind of had a very consistent strategy. But I would say last ZenCon, when we talked about mobile and cloud and Zend Server 6 and DevOps, that really created a lot of excitement. And I think it was one of the best ZenCons we've ever had, if not the best ZenCon we've ever had. And as we look forward to next ZenCon, I think thematically it's actually going to be very, very consistent with last ZenCon. I think the difference is we're going to get more people who've actually now had a chance to experience mobile, experience cloud, and one of our goals is that people can really learn from those experiences in the next ZenCon.
So the last topic is one's near and dear to my heart because it's where I'm going to be spending a lot of my time, and that's DevZone. So DevZone is, I don't think it's overstating to say there's been room to do fantastic things with DevZone, but the resource constraint and the pace of growth at Zend has made it hard to allocate resources to do that. But DevZone was sort of your brainchild in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, DevZone has always been very, very important to me. I feel like having the content available to the PHP community that really helps drive home best practices and methodology on how to build professional apps is critical. And I really see DevZone as the vehicle to do that. And so, we haven't been able to get completely there on what the original vision was when we started DevZone. One of the things that I'm looking forward to, with of course your help and other people's help, the community's help, is really help bring a lot of these best practices onto DevZone. And those best practices, they shouldn't just be about Zend. They should be about how do you build the best PHP applications, how do you leverage continuous integration, what kind of bug trackers, how do you integrate that, how do you think about automation with a Puppet or a Chef. So, we'd really like DevZone to be a place where there's very broad knowledge that is covered that really helps PHP developers and actually also operations, right? Get the best, most current information around building, great PHP apps.
Well, that's great. I've been spending a lot of time this week talking about it and begging for budget, and so hopefully we'll have strides forward very soon on that. Thanks for taking the time. I know that there's a line of folks at your office door, and you're getting ready to do some traveling. So I'll see you again when you're back stateside.
Great. Well, thank you very much.